Hey, welcome back to Business 101, Introduction to Business, and we're continuing our look at the topic of marketing. Last lecture, we were talking about the topic of market research, trying to understand consumers and their preferences. And now in this lecture, we're looking at consumer behavior. How do consumers actually behave, and how do they make their purchasing decisions? Well, as you can see here, in our attempts to understand consumer behavior, the first term we're looking at is just that very term. The textbook defines consumer behavior as the study of the decision process by which people buy and consume products. And we would consider there are at least two broad groups of influences that go into that equation. The first, as you see there, psychological influences, which includes an individual's motivations, perceptions, their ability to learn, and their attitudes that marketers use to study buying behavior. And another class of influences would be personal influences, including lifestyle, personality, economic status that marketers use to study buying behavior as well. A couple of other types of influences, social influences, include family, opinion leaders. Those would be celebrities or other influencers who people value their opinions, and such reference groups as friends, coworkers, professional associates, all these kinds of groups, social influences that marketers use to study buying behavior. And then the last type would be cultural influences, culture, subculture, and social class influences that will influence buying behavior, and so we study them as marketers. All of this eventually will aggregate many times in brand loyalty, which we define as a pattern of regular consumer purchasing based on the satisfaction with a product's performance. And we know what that's like, right? There are many, many, many choices here in the United States if you decide you want a hamburger and fries. And yet for many of us, we gravitate towards a particular brand. For me, I personally love In-N-Out Burger. But then I also love Five Guys. I think I've already told many of you my story, my horrible story about one particular burger chain that, well, we won't mention here in this lecture. But yeah, I have my preferences and I'm loyal to brands. I'm also happen to be loyal to Apple computing products. I'm one of those guys that drank the Kool-Aid about Apple many years ago. And so yes, I proudly use a MacBook Pro, and I have for years, as well as an iPhone, as well as an iPad. Yeah, almost, but not everything that Apple sells, I probably have ended up consuming. And then, based on the last automobile I purchased, which I'm quite frankly still driving, I am a proud brand loyalist to the Lexus brand. I fell upon Lexus simply because my auto mechanic, who I trust really, really, simply because my auto mechanic, who I trust implicitly, years ago recommended, hey, if you're looking for a really nice SUV, you ought to buy this model and this brand, which happened to be a Lexus. I didn't know anything about the brand, but I'm so delighted with the automobile, and it has been so reliable and inexpensive to maintain. I'm sold. It's one of the only car brands I'd really ever consider buying again. And because of that kind of satisfaction with these products from these brands, it builds in my life, as well as each of us, a pretty strong sense of brand loyalty. Brand loyalty, of course, becomes even more important the higher the purchase price is. Because you make fewer of those purchase decisions over time, brand loyalty becomes a pretty large barometer of where we'll gravitate in our consumer purchasing behavior. When we consider the consumer buying process, there are some terms that we should realize here. First, the evoked or consideration set. When a consumer is thinking about making a purchase, there will typically be a small group of products that a consumer will consider buying as a result of their information search. You know this to be true perhaps with automobiles or shoes or an Italian restaurant choice, all across the whole spectrum. you'll probably have a small group of options of products that you'll consider buying as you start your information search. And there is at least two different sets of motives why you would make a purchase. There are, of course, the rational motives, reasons for purchasing a product that are based on a logical evaluation of product attributes. But then there are also emotional motives, reasons for purchasing a product that are based on non-objective factors. What does this look like in real life? Well, I think you know this, right? Examples of the rational motives is, well, I did a bunch of research, I read up on Google, there's 14 people I talked to who all believe that's the wisest product because of this level of performance, etc., etc. And then, of course, the emotional motives is like, I don't care what any of those people say, these pants look good on me, I'm buying them. You understand just from your own purchasing behavior, this oftentimes balance or tension between rational and emotional motives in your buying considerations. If we illustrate them all in a diagram then, this is figure 11.4 from the textbook, and you can sort of see how these all fit together, right? In the middle, you see the stages of the consumer buying process. That typically that buying process starts with recognizing you either have a problem to be solved or have a need to be filled. And so it may be, as you see here, a need to replace old shoes, or it could be simply you're hungry or you need coffee, and you realize you have a problem to solve or a need to be filled. And that next goes to information seeking. A search for, if you're looking for shoes, search for stores, styles, prices, opinions of others, and of course, depending on what you're looking to solve, what you need, information seeking will take quite a wide variety of different forms. Eventually, your research, your information seeking, winnows it down to an evaluation of options and alternatives. So you choose, or at least you have a short list of possible purchases. And you can see here with shoes, which are comfortable, are they affordable, what do they look like, what outfits do they go with, etc., etc. And finally, you'll make a purchase decision, which you'll choose either rationally or emotionally or some admixture of both all swirled together in some cocktail. After that, however, after the point of purchase, you're still evaluating. There's a post-purchase evaluation phase where you will, was this a wise purchase? Do I still like them? Are they really still comfortable? Does the people I like these on me? Do they think they look good? There's an entire set of post-purchase evaluation criteria most of us use. Now, if that's simply the stages of the typical consumer buying process, then you begin to see how both personal environmental factors on the top and marketing factors on the bottom all affect that middle evaluation of alternatives. You can sort of then see how this fits together because on the one hand, the top factors, psychological, personal, social, cultural influences will influence how you evaluate these alternatives. While on the other hand, the factors that we have control over as marketers, the shape and form of the product, the way that we price it, the promotion messaging that we've given to you, as well as how easy it is for you to find the product and purchase it because of our distribution decisions, all of those will also influence your evaluation of alternatives and your final purchase decision. This then is the sketch out of the consumer buying process in a visual diagram for you to understand how the process typically works and how these influencing factors and marketing factors all have an influence on the purchase decision. This then is our last lecture on the topic of marketing. I hope you found this helpful as an introduction to the topic. We'll see you in the next module.